For me, the actual question many people will be asking, especially with how big the Civilization player base really is all right, well, this all sounds fine, but what is the reason to buy this on day one, for especially like the Founders Edition, which is what? I don't remember what it is anymore, but it's friggin' expensive. And to me, like, if somebody is not desperate to like play on day one, if you're not some kind of like Civilization giga fan and you have to play on day one, there really isn't a good reason not to just wait. Yeah, like Founders Edition is 130 euro. That's a lot to pay on day one. So just wait until more content is released, wait until some kind of big Steam sale further down the line, and then consider buying the game. And especially these days when, like, who doesn't have a backlog to work through? I have games in my backlog that have been released like 5 years ago or even longer. Like, obviously I will get Civ 7, but I'm different. I mean, hey, if I weren't running a channel that Civilization is a large part of, I don't know if I would be buying Civ 7 on day one. I'm trying to think about it. There's a good chance I would just wait a bit. Like, especially with how high the price is. Like, the price for Civ 7 for me is the elephant in the room that almost nobody wants to address. Like, for real, even the base version of Civ 7, not the Founders Edition, not the Deluxe Edition, is 70 euro over here. Like, that's a lot to ask for just like the base game. You don't even get like the extra civs that are a part of Deluxe Edition. Yeah, it's around 30 euro. That's the difference in price between the base version and the Deluxe Edition. So I feel like the price is this like big elephant in the room that nobody is really like talking about much. And remember, like, we are not representative of the general Civilization target audience. Most people who are here are probably like way more hardcore Civilization fans. And even a lot of us are like not sure whether we would want to buy the base version on day one for 70 euro. Again, if I didn't run a channel that Civilization is a big part of, I think I would have waited at least like a bit for some kind of discount. A few months in, like, I think that's what I would do. I pretty rarely buy games for full price these days, especially since like a lot of them are really expensive. And like in my case, I make pretty much the same amount that I did before COVID, and we had a little bit of inflation since then. Yeah, still no mention of system requirements. And that's the thing, like, most people expect the system requirements for the PC to be low, but for me, that just reinforces the argument even further. Because if they are going to be low, what's the reason behind not announcing them still? And I don't necessarily agree that they will be low, especially when we have actual confirmation that Civilization 7 will ship basically a completely different version of the game on the previous generation consoles and Switch. It's not going to be the same game. It's going to be a downgraded game, with lower resolution, worse performance, bigger map sizes not being allowed. It's going to be a downgraded version of the game, because that hardware cannot handle the full game. So I don't necessarily agree how obvious it is that we will have low system requirements, especially with the de novo, which is known to affect performance, often really negatively. So to me, like, it's a little bit weird they still haven't announced the system requirements for the PC. Like, I'm not saying there's some kind of big conspiracy there. I'm just saying, like, it raised my eyebrow. It's a little bit strange. I do think the requirements for the PC will be higher than people expect them to be. Let me put it that way. I'm not necessarily saying they will be like super high, but I think they will be higher than people expect them to be. I think maybe I'm a little bit more positive now than I was originally during like the initial reveal, but I'm still mostly neutral. Like, I'm actually still mostly neutral. I'm a little bit more optimistic than previously, but I'm mostly neutral. And again, like for me, the price is a big part of this, okay? If the price was lower, like my opinion would have been different. If it was 50 euro, not 70 or even 60, like then I would be better to be more accepting. I always take price into account when I look at a game, like always. That's what you should do. It's one of my pet peeves that the industry as a whole does not do that. I know I already said this before several times, but yeah, it's just a major pet peeve of mine. Imagine being a hardware reviewer. Imagine you review phones, like there are a lot of phone reviewers out there. So imagine somebody reviews a $100 phone and a $1,000 phone, and it treats them exactly the same way, applies the exact same standard to both, and never mentions the price in any capacity. He'd be laughed out of the room. Imagine like somebody reviews a friggin' car. A $60,000 car and a $600,000 car. And it treats them like exactly the same way, like never mentions the price. Because, okay, what my actual complaint is here is not just the fact that the price is ignored, but also the fact that everyone just assumes. There's this base assumption that every single person out there can always afford every single version of the game. And the only reason for them to not buy that version of the game is because they somehow don't want to. Or like they're doing it maliciously or something like that. Like, that's my issue with it too. Like, there's this underlying assumption. They can all afford it, they just don't want to buy it. Because, I don't know, they want to punish the developer or something. Well, no. I was just making a list like of games I'm interested in just in September alone. And like I summed up the prices, and if I wanted to actually buy every single game I'm directly interested in September, I would have to spend over $300, which is quite a lot, especially like where I live. That's a fair bit of money, even after all the COVID inflation from the past few years. That's still a lot of money. If I were to spend over $300 on new games every single month, I could wait 3 months, not buying anything, and buy myself a good graphics card upgrade instead. Because that would be $1,000 basically. I would just buy myself a new GPU. I actually might need a new GPU soon, you know? Because mine is, I think, on its last legs. It's slowly dying. Now it's just that the games are getting really expensive, RP Greece. And consider that in Europe, the games are already more expensive in euro. And then in Poland specifically, it's often the second most expensive country in the world in our currency after Switzerland. Because that's the default pricing scheme Valve suggests to everyone. You can change it. And there's actually been like a bit of a mini campaign in Poland where people have messaged various developers and publishers to consider changing the regional price. And some of them actually have changed the regional price. One notable example was, I think, Hades 2, actually. They changed their price as a direct result of this campaign. They actually changed their price in Poland. So, I mean, good for them. But most of them just accept the defaults, and the defaults are really, really bad. A lot of the time, the only country that's more expensive is Switzerland, in a Swiss franc. So, like, these games are just really expensive. And there are, like, several big releases coming in September. So I had a list over here. So, okay, Sins of a Solar Empire 2, that was released pretty recently. That's $60. Tactical Bridge Wizards, great game, that was $25. Frostpunk 2, I think that's $50. Age of Mythology, I don't remember how much that one is, but it's on Game Pass, so you can potentially just play it on Game Pass. There's Ara History Untold, which is $65. There's Memoria Polis, which is a pretty interesting game, it's $25. And there's Space Marine 2, which is also coming in September. And I think I missed one or two. So adding up all that, it's over $300. So who's going to spend? How many people do you know? My overall point is, how many people do you know willing to spend $200, $300 for new video games every month? I know a lot of people who have like a 200, 300 budget for new video games for the entire year, not for 1 month. That's how much they spend during the entire year for new games. So like when they see something like Civilization 7, in order to spend €70 for the base game, the base framework, that's already a large part of that budget. And if they want to consider the Founders Edition, that might be like the only full price thing they buy in that entire year, if they buy the Founders Edition. So is that worth it? I would say probably not. They're better off just waiting and buying it cheaper. I mean, there's a Patient Gamers sub on Reddit, which has over 700,000 readers. There are a lot of people over there. There are plenty of people who are more than happy to just wait. You spent $50 on Path of Exile already? Yep, that's how they get you. Yeah, the base version of Civilization 7 is €70 over here. That's the price. And you don't get like any of the extras for that price. If you want the extras, you have to pay at least €100. The deluxe edition is basically €100. In dollars, at the current exchange rate, it's exactly $77. That's the base version. Like, that's the base Civilization 7 version. $77 where I live. So, okay, consider this. Alright. Everyone works within some budget, right? Let's take like some kind of budget do you have allocated for new video games in 1 year. So instead of spending $77 on a Civ 7 on day 1, consider what you could possibly buy for $77. You could wait for a Steam sale, and there are so many really good AAA games that are maybe like 2-3 years old that you can get for a large discount on Steam during a big sale, like a summer sale or a Christmas sale, something like that. And you could easily buy 3 of them for that price. For $77, you could easily get 3 separate AAA discounted games from the last few years, easily. So what's a better value proposition? Yeah, you can get something like Elden Ring. I still have not played Elden Ring. I keep like meaning to like give it a shot at some point. Let's see what the lowest price was so far. I think SteamDB should be showing that. Lowest recorded price for Elden Ring. $36. So yeah, there we go. You can get Elden Ring for $36. If you wait for, let's say, Christmas sale. That's coming up pretty soon. This past summer sale, I got 7 or 8 games. Yeah. Another game I have not played is Red Dead Redemption 2. Let's see what the lowest price is right now. $20. Lowest recorded price for Red Dead Redemption 2. $20. I still have not played this. So we just spent what? We spent $57, right? 56. 36 for Elden Ring, 20 basically for Red Dead Redemption 2. So in our theoretical budget, we spent 56. Instead of buying Civ 7 for $27. So we still have 21 left. We have $21 left. We could easily buy another AAA game for $21. So what's the better value proposition there? You have to be like really massive Civilization fan, I feel, to buy it at 77 on day 1. Again, that's just how I feel. What's Baldur's Gate 3 at? Has that been discounted? Okay, lowest recorded price, $48 right now. But that's a great price for Baldur's Gate 3. And hey, so if we add up all that, that was what? 36, right? Plus 20, plus 48. So that's $104. That's basically the price of the Civilization 7 Deluxe Edition here. $100. So for the price of Civilization 7 Deluxe Edition, we just bought Baldur's Gate 3, Elden Ring, and the Red Dead Redemption 2 in our theoretical budget. So what's a better value proposition there? So, I mean, yeah, that's what I've been saying all along, basically. You're better off just waiting, unless like you're really desperate to play it on day 1. You're better off just waiting. Heck, I would argue you're still better off just waiting a little bit, because even if you are pretty sure you want to buy it right away, you're better off waiting for like some actual unscripted, unfiltered gameplay. You're better off waiting until people can start playing and streaming it. Then you can really accurately judge whether you are likely to enjoy the game or not. There's no reason to really like buy it today. There's no reason. And like, look, I would be okay with the €70 price if you got everything for that price, but you don't. That's just the base game. If you want the deluxe edition stuff, you have to pay $100 basically. Yeah, this is the price. $429. That's the price. The current exchange rate, it's $428. But basically exactly €100. Euro, not dollars. In dollars, it's 109 basically. So €100 for the deluxe edition. That's what you need to buy if you want the Shawnee. Yeah, included in the deluxe and founders edition. So if you want the extra leader and the extra civilization, kind of like the Aztecs were on Civilization 6 release, you need to pay €100. You need to buy this version here if you want the extra civ. So I mean, that's a lot. Even as somebody who has played Civilization for 30 years, because I played Civilization games since 1992 when I got my first PC. I played every single Civilization since Civilization 1. So I played Civilization for 30 years. It's been a big part of my life. And if it wasn't for the fact that I run a channel that's based largely on a Civ, I probably still wouldn't have bought it on day one. Like, this is just a lot. Like, €100 is just a lot. How old am I? 44. Unfortunately. I wish that wasn't the case, but alas, here we are. We have a lot of people like around 40 in our community. I am also prepared to be disappointed. That's my secret. I am always prepared to be disappointed. With that said, like sometimes I expect a disappointment and I'm still let down. Let's actually check Civilization 5 and let's check the player count over time. Like, let's just check all of it. Yeah, like, I think like 20-something thousand is still pretty good, considering like how cheap Civilization 6 Anthology has been on a sale, and how much extra stuff you now get in Civ 6 Anthology. This is really solid. Like 22,000 is actually a lot. Can we see? Okay, we can see like the whole list. So where does that put it? In top 100? Yeah. Top 60 even. Top 70, I mean. Right here. That's pretty good. That's actually really good. For a 14-year-old game, a turn-based strategy game, this is a 14-year-old turn-based strategy game. And it's in top 70 on Steam. Civ 6 is definitely higher. There's Civ 6. Civ 6 is in top 20. So this is how strong Civilization's brand is. There is no other turn-based strategy game that can compete with Civilization in terms of brand recognition. Like, it does not exist. Which is why I always laugh at some of the developers or publishers who claim they are going to make a Civ killer. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not gonna make jack shit. Like, anyone who claims they're going to make a Civ killer is just delusional. It actually proves that he hasn't done market research. If somebody actually claims that his totally unknown strategy game will be a Civ killer, he actually literally outs himself as not having done market research. Like, that's literally it. It's like all those MMOs back in the day who claimed to be WoW killers. How did that work out for them? If you want to even have a chance of competing with Civ, you need to have really good brand recognition. Like, the thing with Civ is that even people who don't play video games know about Civilization. It's just that recognizable. It's massively recognizable. It's been in mainstream media like many times in various contexts. I mean, I know people in real life who have zero interest in video games, but they know Civilization 7 is coming. Yeah, the only thing that can kill Civ is Civ itself. which is not gonna happen probably. And I mean, I do think Civilization 7 will be successful. I have no doubt it will be successful. Yeah, there will be a lot of people who will want to buy Civ 7, just not at that price. I mean, let me show you. It's been exactly the same with any other Civ game. Like, this is not any different than with Civ 6, for example. Let me show you the players over time for Civ 6. So obviously there's always a massive spike on day one. That's completely natural for every game, ever. But look at how the graph goes up over time. And the reason it goes up is because of the discounts. The first time they discounted the game to like a certain degree and lowered the price, that's when new people bought into it. And therefore the player base goes up. Like, this is what happens with games like this. This is completely normal. In fact, the lowest point ever that it had was not long after release, when it was at 27,000. And in that time, where was Civilization 5? Civilization 5 was above Civilization 6 for a very long time in player count, because it was a much cheaper game. So let me see here. Here's 6 and here's 5. So we were looking at like mid-2017. So in mid-2017, Civ 6 was between 26,000 and 30,000 concurrent players in June, July 2017. Let's check Civ 5 in June, July 2017. There you go. June, July. It was at 40 to 44,000. And it started dropping when more people bought into Civ 6. And the Civ 6 line started slowly going up. Like, it started slowly going up from this point. And by like 2020, 2021, it's already above 50,000. And 5 was down to 30,000 at that point, 25. So like, this is a completely normal. And the exact same thing will happen in Civ 7. In fact, you could probably write an article in advance. Okay, you could make a clickbait video or write a clickbait article about Civ 7 and claim how Civilization 7 has failed because its concurrent player count on Steam is at like, let's say, half of Civilization 6's. You could literally make a video about that in advance. Obviously, it would be bullshit clickbait, but you could make a video in advance, because I guarantee that's what's going to happen. Yeah, right now on a sale, you can get a Civilization 6 anthology for like, I don't know, $10 or 12, something like that. And the anthology includes literally everything. I think we need to go through like packages. Right here. Okay, that's current price, but it's been discounted further before. The packages do not show the lowest recorded price, just current price. But I'm pretty sure it's been available for $12 before the Civ 6 anthology. So you can get everything if you buy the Civ 6 anthology. Everything. Anyway, I'm still like neutral leaning positive maybe. If we ignore the whole like price discussion, I'm neutral leaning positive. Probably not like super positive right now because we don't know enough. But I still want to see more. We haven't really seen a whole lot. Like, we've seen them talk about stuff, but we haven't really seen a whole lot. I wanted them to show like how exactly the transition to the new age is going to work. I want to actually see it in game. Like when you actually play from Antiquity Age to Exploration Age. I want to see how that's going to work exactly in game. And I'm sure we'll find out, but the question is when. I also want to see how exactly the map expansion is going to work. Because, I don't know, that makes the true starting location Earth a little bit problematic from my point of view. Because right now, they have civilizations basically for every like part of the world. If I look at the official site, they have Antiquity Age civilizations for like every part of the world. So how is a true start location Earth map going to work? Civilizations. Yeah, check this out. Antiquity Age. Aksum, Egypt, Maya, Moria, and Rome. How is that going to work? If you have an Earth map where, let's say, the Americas are not revealed until you enter Exploration Age, then, well, you can't play the Maya with the accurate historical start location, because that's not available yet. So I want to see how exactly that's going to work, and whether it will prevent a true start location Earth map from playing properly, or just lock out certain civilizations from starting in their historically accurate locations. And I know a lot of people care about this. I don't necessarily, this is not like a make or break for me, but I know a lot of people care about this. Can you mod in maps at all? I mean, I assume you will be able to mod maps. That's one of the most basic modding functionalities you can imagine. It would be a big L if you couldn't do that. But technically, they haven't confirmed anything about modding yet. There was a very short mention in passing, but they haven't really said anything about whether modding will be available on day one, and what the extent of available modding functionalities will be. Do you think changing saves between ages will add to the replayability or take away? Yeah, that's a tough question. It really depends on the details. One question we haven't seen the answer to is how many different saves for each age will the game ship with. So far, they've only shown 5 for Antiquity Age. It says more coming soon down here. How many more? We don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. Yeah, de novo can affect modding. It doesn't have to. It depends on the implementation. It can also be used to limit modding. That can be one of its functions. So a lot depends on the actual implementation. Technically, they haven't actually said yet that modding will be in-game on day one. They haven't actually said that. Everyone assumes that will be the case, but they haven't actually said it. My actual stance is that nothing is obvious. I don't treat anything as obvious until I actually hear it from the horse's mouth, from the developers directly. So I make no assumptions about what the game will be, what it won't be, what it will have, what it won't have, until I actually hear about it from the developers. Oh yeah, and there's one thing, there's one thing they haven't addressed because nobody has asked, that I would really like to see addressed, is whether Civilization 7 will actually have a meta progression system. Because the way they worded it on their site makes it sound like it will, but it's open to interpretation. You can give it a more generous interpretation that this will not be the case. However, it specifically mentions that you will need to use the 2K account. Okay, check this out. Oh yeah, right here. Unlock progression bonuses for your leaders across multiple gameplay sessions. This line here. And also online play and features, including progression bonuses. So this one. This feature here. Progression bonuses. This feature here requires an internet connection and a 2K account. So to me, this strongly suggests there will be a meta progression system. Some people out there on the forums and Reddit have given it a much more generous interpretation that multiple gameplay sessions simply means that people don't play through the entire game in one sitting, they just save the game and reload, like in any previous save game. But if that was the case, why would you need a 2K account? To me, that's not what it means. This line specifically here, about requiring the internet connection and 2K account. Because you have to somehow keep track of what that player has done and what he has unlocked. If that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have needed this. So to me, this means we will have a meta progression system in Civ 7, which no Civilization game has ever had before, and I do not like this. If this will actually make your leaders stronger and your bonuses stronger over time, I really dislike this. I do not like that at all. I hope that's not what it means, but it kind of sounds like that's what it means. I would like to see this directly addressed at some point, and it probably will be sooner or later, But this is like one of the big elephants in the room that has not been addressed in any way. Yeah, but that's just copium, like I said, Devalish. Because every single Civilization game in the past worked that way. You were never forced in Civilization to play through the entire game in one sitting, and saves can be kept locally. Because if they are saying, okay, if we take their interpretations, that would mean no more local saves, right? If that's what it means, what they are saying, that means you are no longer allowed to have local saves on your PC. That would be the only reason to require internet connection and a 2K account to be able to continue a game over multiple playthroughs. That would be the only reason. If you are no longer allowed to have local saves. So that would also be really bad. So, like, no matter what interpretation people give it, it's kind of bad, one way or the other. Like, you shouldn't require an internet connection and a 2K account to save your game, if that's what they are saying. But to me, that's not what it means. To me, it means that you will have a meta progression system where your chosen leader gets stronger over time after you played through the game multiple times. That's what it means to me, and I would like to see this addressed. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, I need a quick break. I'll be back in like 2 minutes, so be right back.